Testing, testing. How is everybody? All right, so. I have to hold this, I'm too tall. All right, so. Big round of applause for Miss Terry Moore, everybody. That was pretty nice. How do you follow that, right?
I know, it's terrific. Can everybody hear okay?
Yeah.
I can still hear that static.
Is it echoing?
If someone can, anyone here knows how to do technology.
Is this better or worse? Better, okay, good.
That's better.
All right, so where do we start with someone like Terry Moore, whose career has been everywhere? Well, the first thing I want to ask you, Terry, is having known you for a while, you have this very strong energy. Am I allowed to say your age, or am I going to
Sure, sure.
You're about to turn how old?
87.
87.
You know, when you're a child and when you hit your 80s, then you're very proud to say how old you are. You even put in the halves.
Sorry about that, folks. So where does the energy come from at 87?
Well, I've never drunk or smoked, and I eat very healthy, and I exercise constantly. I do boot camp 3 times a week with a captain, Korean captain from West Point, and I do yoga twice a week, and on weekends I walk 10 to 15 miles. So exercise is so important.
Amazing. All right, so
And
let's
not
get
smoking.
So let's get to the career, Terry.
Yes.
So you grew up in LA.
Yes, I did. I grew up in Glendale, California.
And you started out as a child model, correct?
Well, I was an actress before a model, but I was a big cover girl. I had 30 magazines and covers in 1 year, including Life, Look, Cosmopolitan, Red Book, over and over on Parade, everything. Can everyone hear me now?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out that static you said that's still going on there. So, wasn't it something, a neighbor of yours had something to do with getting you involved in things, sending a picture of yours?
Well, a neighbor of ours sent a picture of me into a casting magazine, and there was an interview for Walter Brennan's granddaughter, and there were 500 other little girls on the interview. They picked 8 of us and screen tested us, and I got the role. That's how I started out, but they wanted to know if I could ride bareback standing up on a horse. I said, of course. I went out that weekend, it was a long weekend, Washington's birthday, and I learned, and I've been riding ever since. I always say I broke in movies on a horse.
And it's very appropriate because that film was named Maryland.
Yes, it was called Maryland. Oh my God, the first movie I ever made was Maryland. And Walter Brennan played the same colonel that he played in the movie Kentucky. Yes, isn't that amazing? I never thought of that.
But back then, you weren't Terry Moore. You had a whole lot of names. Let's see, there was Judy Ford, Jan Ford, Helen Coford.
I was born Helen Coford, K.O. Ford. And then we cut it down to Judy Ford, and then Jan Ford, and then when I was 18 and had to play opposite Glenn Ford, they said we can't have 2 Fords in one movie, so Harry Cohen changed my name to Terry, which was my name in the movie, and he said to my mother, what was your maiden name? She said, Bickmore, too long, took the Moore part, and he said, goodbye Terry Moore, nice to have met you. Now, so that's how and I was the first Terry. There were no other girls named Terry. Now every place I turn, there's T-E-R-I, T-E, and they spelled every which way. I'm the old-fashioned T-E-R-R-Y.
That's all for you, Terry.
But I have 2 best girlfriends, both their names are Terry.
There you go. So, I want to talk about some of your early film roles. I think many people don't know this, but you were in Gaslight.
playing the young Ingrid Bergman.
I played Ingrid Bergman as a child. I played Rita Hayworth and Victor Mature's daughter in My Gal Sal. 10 years later, I played opposite Victor Mature, and he said, yes, 10 years from now, you'll be my mother. And I played Cary Grant's daughter in Howards of Virginia, and he became a lifelong friend, really close. My son Grant is the godchild of Cary, named after him, and my son Stuart is named after my pal, well, not named after him, his godfather's John Wayne. Wow. And the Duke and all of us, I mean, I was so close to all these people, old Hollywood, and played opposite, you know, they were my friends, my pals.
That's exciting. So another film that you did that I think has a connection here is Son of Lassie, because we have John Provost who's in the team.
Yes! Oh God, I love dogs. I mean, my life is dogs.
Angel.
Yes, I am. Oh, my little dog, Boo Boo, of 17 years, died, and I went. Oh, it's right. And I went. I thought I can't live without her, and I went. Drove 5 blocks to the pound. Sitting there was another little white dog. I said, I want her. I took her home, and I've got someone watching over her, calls me all day long to let me know how my little Angel is. She's Angel because she doesn't do anything wrong. I could have never lived without Boo Boo. I didn't have Angel. Please don't live without a dog or a cat. They keep you. That's one of the things that keeps you alive and young forever. Hey, yes.
So another thing you did early in your career was a radio show, and there are a lot of radio fans here at this show, so I want to talk about this real quick. The Smiths of Hollywood, with Brenda Marshall and Harry Von Zell.
Harry Von Zell and Arthur Treacher. And Arthur Treacher was the butler in all of Shirley Temple's movies. And I think I was one of the last people to say goodbye to Shirley. I won't take her out of my phone book. I mean, I've never seen anything like Shirley Temple, such a child actress, such a special little girl, and woman and human being.
So, you were first signed to Columbia Pictures, correct? You're one of the last real studio girls from that era that's still around.
I was 7 years at Columbia, then 7 years at 20th Century Fox.
Wow. And how did you get hooked up with Columbia?
Well, that's when I tested for, they were looking for a girl in a movie called Return of October. And October was a horse. How I love doing horse movies. And it's a story about a little girl named Terry Ramsey who lives with her Uncle Willie, Jimmy Gleason. He's always said, honey, if I die, I swear I'll come back as a horse. So when Terry finds a horse with all Uncle Willie's characteristics, she thinks surely this is Uncle Willie who's come back to win the Kentucky Derby, the thing he wanted most while living. And so anyway, I was the only girl naive enough to believe her Uncle Willie was a horse. So I got the role.
For anyone that's interested, by the way, the Smiths of Hollywood, all those episodes, you can listen to those online for free.
Really?
They're all over the internet, so you can
I've never heard any of them.
get those anytime. So one of your most famous film roles was with RKO Pictures, Mighty Joe Young. How did that all...
Oh, that is so interesting, Matt, how I got that role. I was under contract to Columbia, and I got called over there to meet with the people, and the director, he was 6'5", and he had directed King Kong, Chang-Chi,
and he was
Four
blind.
Feathers,
Wasn't he blind?
He'd lost his eyes in World War II. And he said to me, let's see you run. I kicked off my shoes and I ran all the way to the end of the lot and back real fast. He said, you got the role. Because I could run. And I didn't know they had already signed another girl. They paid her off, paid her in full, and I got the role.
Do we know who that was?
No, I don't want to know.
So that was also the first film of a very famous animator, Ray Harryhausen.
Yes.
He was the assistant to, what's his name?
Yeah, what is his name?
Willis O'Brien.
Willis O'Brien.
He was the assistant to Willis O'Brien.
Yes.
What was it like working with a very young Ray Harryhausen?
Well, I really got to know Harry later. We'd go on autograph shows, and we even appeared real briefly in a remake of Mighty Joe Young. But you know, they weren't around on the set, so but I did meet them.
Well, Joe wasn't on set either, now was he?
He was to me. I always saw him. He was always there for me.
But when you were throwing bananas in the air and doing that whole thing.
I saw him. He's still living in Africa. He has a very nice condo there.
So what was it like working with Ben Johnson, Robert Armstrong?
I loved all of those people. I mean, they were such real people. I mean, they were, and Marion C. Cooper was a real general, and so was the director, Shotzak. They had fought with Lawrence of Arabia. They had fought. They'd been in India hunting Bengal tigers. They were really real men. I'll tell you something. These men. Whoa.
Well, speaking of tigers, weren't a few people actually hurt on the set of Mighty Joe Young, attacked by lions?
Yes, they were. Everything had to be real for Marion C. Cooper. Everything.
Was that kind of, were you ever scared for your own safety after you heard about the other people getting attacked?
No, I never thought about it. I should have, but when you're young, you know, you just don't think anything can happen.
You're just naive and just go into it.
That's right.
I'll be safe.
Sure.
Yeah, you were saying you did have a cameo in the 1998 version. What did you think of that? Did you like that version? Did you like your version better?
Oh, I liked our version much better. Yeah. And they didn't have Robert Armstrong. They were the original. No, and you know what? Everything had moved up. That was too good. I mean, they didn't have Harryhausen, which we had to do everything one thing at a time. One, what do you call it? One
sequence.
Yeah, exactly.
Frame
at a time. Yeah, yeah. It had moved. It had gotten too slick. We weren't slick.
So in 1952, I think it was, you were nominated for an Academy Award for Come Back Little Sheba. Tell us about that role.
Well, I'm the last thing in the world I ever expected. I just finished working with Gloria Graham and Frederick March and Elia Kazan, the greatest director I've ever known, one of the greatest human beings in Germany. And it was so wonderful working with them. And I get home and I'm told I'm nominated for an Academy Award. I couldn't believe it. And Howard Hughes called me and said, honey, you're right where Marilyn Monroe was a year ago. All you have to do is march down the aisle. I could not believe it. And Gloria and I became such good friends. And that lady did something for me that I shall never forget. And which I can't talk about it, but she was a friend, a friend. And she beat me out, and I couldn't have been happier. I mean, she was a wonderful woman, a wonderful actress. And isn't it strange that we would have just worked together, been in Germany for 3 months together? She played my stepmother because she married my father, Frederick March. And it was about a circus, man on a tightrope. It's a true story about a circus that escaped from Czechoslovakia into free Germany. And for every night, I would go on with the circus. I did an elephant act. I fell so in love with elephants too, and I did a horse act, horses again. And it was so much. It was wonderful being part of a circus and that life.
So take me to the night of the Oscars, because I'm a big fan of the Oscars. Take me to that day. Like, how do you prepare in the morning? Are you nervous? Are you anxious? Who was your date?
My date was Robert Wagner, and I still talk to him at least once a month. I mean, we are such good friends. And I wore a dress that Howard had designed for me for my nightclub act. I headlined the Flamingo in Las Vegas. And Edith had designed the dress, who was nominated for 16 Academy Awards. And that's pretty much what I remember about the night.
Well, talking about Robert Wagner, you guys also did a film together.
We did 2 films together. We did Beneath the 12-Mile Reef, which was the first CinemaScope movie ever made. And I did this second CinemaScope movie ever made, King of the Khyber Rifles, with Tyrone Power. They made the robe third, but but they released it first because it was the big picture. And I cannot say the word Tyrone Power without, I mean, he was the most beautiful human being on the inside and the out I have ever known. I mean, everybody loved him. He was kind, he was good, he was great. And the first day of shooting, I had to do a love scene with him. And I tell you, I was so nervous that my eyes started twitching. Now, you can't do anything about a twitching eye. And he was so kind, he said to the director, Henry King, he said, "Henry, I don't know my lines very well." He always knew his lines backwards. And he said, "Do you mind if we go sit under that tree there and I work on them with Miss Moore?" And so we did, and of course he made me feel so easy that the eye quit twitching and the love scene went great. And you know, that because of his kindness, I still dream of him at least once a week, my entire life. And his son, he said, "You know, Terry, if I die tomorrow, I have everything I've ever wanted, except, no, I would like to die on stage," which he did, "and I'd like to have a son," which he did after he died. And the son's mother died too, and Tyrone Power Jr., I talk to him at least once a week. I'm his mother now.
Aww.
Yep. And he's a wonderful boy who looks just like his father, and what a lot of people do not know is Tyrone Power, the father, this movie star, was a Marine, and he was a fighter pilot in the Marines, World War II, and he was a big war hero. I think he shot down more planes than any other Marine in World War II.
Wow. Well, you worked with a lot of Hollywood's leading men. John Wayne, Glenn Ford, Mickey Rooney.
Yes, all of them.
Are there any special ones that
They were all special in their way.
Any ones that stick out in particular?
It's so funny, a man just asked me, and it just doesn't leave my mind, a little while ago, what was the difference between Ben Johnson, who was my leading man in Mighty Joe Young, and Audie Murphy. And Audie Murphy was the #1 war hero, most decorated soldier who ever lived. Since he got every medal there ever was, no one could ever get more, and became a movie star. But they were so totally different, and this seems so obvious. One was a cowboy. Ben Johnson was the calf rope champion of the world, and of course, Audie Murphy, the great war hero. And yet they were so totally different, cowboy, soldier, but that was a big difference. And when I was studying their pictures, Audie loved seeing very stern, the posture of a soldier, and Ben is so sweet, so accommodating. I mean, I loved them both, but they were so different.
And you're also close friends with so many people in Hollywood. I don't know if you worked with people like James Dean, Marilyn Monroe.
I dated James Dean. Marilyn was one of my best friends.
Can you give us a story about James Dean? Everyone loves James Dean.
Well, I went to my agent's, and he was in a window asleep. And I took from the Venetian blind, and I tickled him with it. And the next thing I know, I'm on the floor. He tackled me, and we're rolling over and over. And he had just made East of Eden, but it hadn't been released. And so we both worked for Elia Kazan. And that was the greatest thing you could do in Hollywood, was work for this great director. And I invited him home for dinner. And he had pretty sloppy manners. And my father said, "Why don't you put his food in the corner and let him eat like a dog?" I did, and he went and licked it up like a dog.
Did we get that on tape?
But Jimmy ended up going to the studio with me every day, because at Goldwyn Studios, Howard had fixed up for me to work on my nightclub act, so he loved to go to my singing lessons, my dancing lessons. He even went to church with me on Sundays. Yeah, so we became good friends.
Well, you keep mentioning him, so I guess we'll talk about him now. You were married to Howard Hughes.
Yes, yes.
Correct? That's very interesting, because he was kind of a recluse, wasn't he?
Not with me.
How did you guys meet? What was he like? He's a very mysterious kind of figure in a way to a lot of people, Howard Hughes.
Yeah, I guess to others he is. But I was every time that my boyfriend and myself would go, his name was Kojo, his name was Jerome Cortland, we called him Kojo, would go out, we would run into this agent, Johnny Mashio, and he would ask us to come have a drink with him. Well, both of us drank 7-Ups. We finally said, okay, and we went to the Beverly Wilshire, and he looked across the room and he said, oh, there's Howard Hughes. I'm thinking, Houston, John Houston, Howard Hawks, Howard Hughes. I couldn't figure out which one he was. He comes rambling over, and he sits down with us, and anytime anyone asked him a question, he wouldn't look at them, he'd look at me and answer the question. It made me so uncomfortable. And he asked Kojo and me to go flying with him, and Kojo immediately said yes, and I'm kicking him on the table saying no. Anyway, we ended up going flying with him, and he would call me. He started calling me at night. My school teacher said at the studio, just let him come, invite him to your house for dinner. Let him see how out of his league he is. And I did, and my parents got him to wash the dishes for us. And we started flying with him, Kojo and me, and I'm the one who learned to fly, not Kojo.
Wow.
I was the third woman in the world to check out in jets. And we both loved motion pictures, we both loved flying so much, and I would end up talking on the phone with him for hours because he knew all the girls in Hollywood so well. And I was so curious about everybody, Ava Gardner and all of them. And pretty soon, I said to Kojo, I said, I can't believe it. I can't wait to get in to talk to Howard. He said, why don't you go out with him? I said, what do you mean go out with him? He said, why don't you go out with him? I think you're falling in love with him. I said, you're crazy. I thought, why don't I? And I did. I started going out with him, and I fell madly in love. Never fell out of love.
Well, you were telling us a funny story yesterday. I don't know if you want to talk about it on stage, but he was close friends with Cubby Broccoli, who produced the James Bond films.
Yes.
And he sort of helped inspire Diamonds Are Forever.
Right.
And actually closed down the Las Vegas Strip so they could film the movie.
Right.
So tell us about that relationship that the two of them had together.
Well, I don't think I should.
No?
No.
Okay.
No.
We won't go there, folks.
We won't go into that.
Well, let's go somewhere safer. Peyton Place.
Oh, Peyton Place.
Yeah, the little film you did.
Yeah, oh yeah, with Lana.
Lana Turner.
Yeah. But which story on that?
Was that nice? Well, I just want to ask you about your experience working on that film. Was that a good experience?
Yes, it was. Lana, the fellow that either she murdered or her daughter murdered, Stompanato was his name?
Stompanato, yeah. And they said that after she murdered him, the box office for Peyton Place went up 32% that week.
Well, he would stand behind the camera watching our every scene. He was good looking, and he was always there. And Lana was so sweet. I loved working with her. And I can't, she was such a big star when I was a child. I can't believe that I co-starred with Lana. Yeah, I really loved working with her. And that was a fun movie. It was. But it's such a historic that murder happened on that, right after that movie.
And it inspired the TV show Peyton Place, too.
Yes,
so
yes.
That was very
nice. I became friends with Mia also, who played Lana's role, I think.
So let's talk about TV. One of your better-known TV roles, I think, and I know a lot of people here love it, was Venus Flytrap on Batman.
Yes, that was so much fun. I didn't know that would become so famous. I still haven't seen it. I hope one of the vendors are selling it because I'd love to see it. But it's the only 3-parter.
And it was released as a film in England too.
Yes, as a film. And I'm a really bad girl. I'm partners with the Riddler and the Joker and what's the other one?
Penguin.
Riddler,
Joker.
Huh? Riddler, yes, we're all of them. But in the end, and we're almost eaten by a giant crab, and in the end I became friends with Batman and I fall in love with him, which was nice.
And you get started on some westerns like Gunsmoke.
Oh, I did the first Rawhide ever with Clint Eastwood.
Rawhide.
And Clint and I, he's still one of my best friends. I love him.
Clint Eastwood.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fancy.
He's so darling, so dear.
And you also started on your own show, Empire.
Yes.
Not
now,
Empire.
No, they have a new Empire now, but I starred in that. It starred Richard Egan, Terry Moore, Ann Seymour, Ryan O'Neal, and Charlie Bronson, who became such a huge star. He was #1 box office for a long time.
And you also were on the Red Skelton show. I loved Red Skelton. So what was he like to work with?
Well, he loved me, and so every month I did his show until I got Empire, and it was on at the same time, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I traveled all over the world with Bob Hope. I loved Hope. Oh, he was so wonderful. They asked me what the greatest experiences of my life were, and besides having my children and my dogs, I would say entertaining the troops. And I became the #1 pinup of the Korean War, and entertaining the guys overseas, there's nothing like it in the whole world, ever.
That's wonderful. So my next question, we had already talked about Howard Hughes. So, okay, sorry. There was one applause, so it caught my attention. Did you have a favorite medium that you like to do? TV, film, radio, stage? You always bounced around it.
Well, radio I liked for the fact I didn't have to wear no makeup. However, I never wore makeup in any of my black and white movies. And I always think people look younger without makeup. And I don't have anything false but false eyelashes. And but I like motion pictures.
And
that's where I started.
You're also an author.
Yes.
A successful author. You've written
That's hard.
several books.
Yes, I've written 3 books. And my first one went to #5 and 5th bestseller. And it was called The Beauty and the Billionaire, about Howard and me, of course. And it was I had to go back and I'd be at the typewriter, because we're still typewriters. And I'd say, no, that's not the way it happened. It was this way. Oh, yes. And I had to dig into my soul and write that movie, that book. But Cary Grant and Greg Boucher and all his friends say it's the only book that's like him, that captures him.
In more recent years, you've been popping up on TV a lot. You just did the last episode of True Detective last season, working with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson.
It was wonderful working with those guys. They were terrific. We had fun working together. We were all aged for it. They wanted to let me know because it was the last one. I didn't know they had age makeup, but I'm looking at Woody's stomach, and he says, "Yeah, I've got to work out. I'll take this off." They put that stomach on him.
Oh, really?
And we're all trying to make excuses. Well, my hair isn't really gray. I'm wearing a gray wig.
So, what would you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered for? What is it that you think about when you think of your career and your life? I know you just had a grandson.
Great-grandson.
Great-grandson, excuse me. Great-grandson. And that was...
His name is... which I get it mixed up, I just have a grandson too.
Whoops.
Oh, his Stuart Warren Kramer VI. And we call him the General because my girlfriend, who's a minister, said he's going to be a general. I'm sure he is, because Stuart Warren Kramer Jr. went to the point with Eisenhower and General Patton, who were his best friends. So we were pretty sure he's going to be a general. Yeah. It looks like he's already tough. He's in the incubator and doing push-ups on the day he's born.
Well, some people might know who your son is, Grant Kramer.
Grant Kramer, he was on Young and Restless.
Young and the Restless. Yes.
Went to #1 while he was on it.
Soap opera fans.
He's in Europe doing it. Pardon?
Who was his character on the show?
Sean, oh, I've always known it, now I'm forgetting it. Sean something. He was bad. He was a very naughty person.
Well, we're going to open up the floor to anyone out here that has a question.
It'll come to me. Everything comes back.
You want to go ahead and ask your question first? Well, then you can ask the question first, then I'll ask first. Go ahead, ask.
Hi, Jill.
Oh, hi!
I've always wanted to say that. What was it like working with the animation Mighty Joe Young? How did you perform with it?
Well, my whole life, I've had a big imagination, so I really saw a Mighty Joe Young there. It wasn't my imagination, because my imagination is so real. I saw him, and I still see him.
How's he doing?
I told you, he's living in Africa, Congo.
Boca Raton, right?
Right. No, Africa.
Oh, Africa, even better.
Yes.
First of all, I want to thank you for appearing here. I saw you earlier today.
Sean Garrett.
She remembered.
That's the character her son played on Young and the Restless. I know, it's always seems to play the same way. It's like, I forget, I'll think of it, and that was great. I saw you earlier somewhere, I said, who's the good-looking lady with the cute little hat? And it happened to be you. You look incredible. So I just wanted to tell you, you look incredible. What are your secrets? Also, I volunteered at the National Capoeira Team, and as, what's your name, mister?
My name, I'm Matt.
Matt.
And I
Great
keep
question.
making out with this microphone.
Okay, great questions, Matt, thank you. If there was one piece of work that you could put in a museum, and he sort of kind of asked that, one piece of work that says, this represents Terry Moore, what would it be? And what makes you look so good? You look incredible.
This represents what?
Represents you. One piece
What
of
project,
work.
Dave?
What piece of work, radio, TV, something that nobody is releasing, something that's most popular work, what represents you?
Of the things I've done.
Right. It can be old, new, a story.
I would say Return of October, where I believe my uncle came back as a horse.
Oh,
Really?
And the greatest thing in my whole life was my mother.
oh, great,
Wow.
great.
And my dad. I was so lucky. I had a normal life. I had good parents.
That's probably why you look so good today. You look incredible. Thank you. Where'd you get the hat from? It's so cute.
Oh, my friend Terry Copley, she's an actress, gave that to me. I had to go someplace and she said, wait, you need a hat. And she went out and got it for me. She sells clothes out of her living room, and she loves old, clothes from the 50s and everything.
Right. Was she on We've Got It Made? Is that Terry Copley, the same actress on We've?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes.
He's adorable, too. Thank
We're
you.
good friends.
Great. You look incredible. Thank you.
Thank you, darling. Yes.
I'd like to ask you about Daddy Longlegs and Fred Astaire.
Oh, Daddy Longlegs with Fred Astaire and Leslie Caron.
So there was a big crowd over at Leslie Caron and she was, I get it.
Daddy Longlegs.
And the number, the production number itself.
Oh, the scene, I'm not sure.
He was rehearsing.
I remained friends with Fred Astaire till the day he died. Fred Astaire was so wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, what a man. The day he died, he was my friend. And I got along with Leslie Caron. I never met an actor I didn't like.
I think you kind of keep in touch with most of the people that you've worked with.
Yes.
So I think
yes.
that says a lot about who you are as a person.
And he made a great Betty Anderson.
And the most important thing to me is kindness, to be kind to people. I try every day to make somebody's life a little happier. It's so important. And I realize how lucky I am.
And we're very lucky to have you here with us.
Oh,